you care way too much. I think I think people, especially in my generation, are having some sort of like a social disconnect. Um, I think people nowadays have a hard time moving on from situations that they need to. I think I think people could excel a lot from moving on from situations that might be holding them back. I think people get caught up in situations that may seem like they need to be something more, or they need, like, they mean more than they might actually do. I think people get caught up in situations where they start something with someone perhaps, and then maybe it escalates, and then someone starts distancing themselves more from it, and then the other person sort of gets left in the dust, or at least that's what it feels like. And I think people tend to stay in those situations when they really shouldn't. But I also understand it's not easy to get out of it. I understand, there's emotions there. Emotions can, drive people in certain ways. It can change how you think about things. And that's not healthy. It's not healthy to let your emotions run your whole life. You need to have control over your emotions and control over your brain, and realize that maybe some things just aren't meant to be. You're supposed to let that person go. Maybe the universe brought that person to you, but at the same time, maybe the universe is taking that person away from you for a certain reason. Maybe you're supposed to learn from this experience. And I think people, especially people nowadays in my generation, with like people being less social, I think people having less social interaction, I think it's causing people to overthink things. And that's why I like to come out in nature, because the only thing out here is just everything that's supposed to be out here, and it's relaxing. It can calm your brain. It can cool you down from whatever you're thinking. If your mind's bouncing off the walls all the time, it kind of zens you out and allows you to really think. And I think silence definitely can help too. I think people nowadays are so overstimulated, and I am as well at times. Like with we have music going, we have social media, we have advertisements everywhere, we have endless amounts of distractions around us at all times, all day, every day, 24/7. So it's very hard to get pure silence. Sometimes it seems like the only way to get into real silence is either late at night, or if you personally choose to put yourself in that position. I think people don't like it, because the only thing that comes out in the truth is your own thoughts. And then when you're sitting there in the silence, you have to go through those thoughts. You have to process them. You have to really break yourself down. And I think a lot of people are scared to do that. But yeah, I think when you get, going back to the original concept about like sort of breaking, maybe not breaking off, but going back to what we were originally talking about, I think people get entangled with people sometimes, and a bit obsessive, because they might think that person is the one for them, or the only one in the world that they need to satisfy them, even when you don't really know them on like that level. And I think when people have to accept the fact that it's done and you need to move on with your life, and carry on with things, I think people have a hard time doing that. I know people can stay stuck in those situations where you're still, even though it's done, you're still thinking about that person. You're still going over it in your head. You're still wanting to keep in contact with them. You're still wanting to do all that stuff. But the truth reality that, like, if you put yourself in quiet positions where you can really break yourself down, there is an underlying truth that is not comfortable, and that is that on the surface, it's over, it's done with. There's nothing else to do, and so all the energy you spend thinking about that person, wishing you did something better perhaps, or thinking that you changing something would change the situation, that would make it go better, all the thoughts you have, right? I think people need to spend more time in silence, because people in silence, it can allow themselves to dig deep in their brain and question themselves, but also just go over things and thinking about thoughts and breaking yourself down and processing it and accepting it, because that's what you have to do. It gets to a point where you're just wasting time thinking about someone that perhaps isn't even thinking about you anymore. They've moved on with their life, they're doing their thing, they're living their life, and you're stuck just sitting around thinking about this person for months and months and months, and it's wasting time that you could be putting towards endless amount of other things to progress yourself as a human being. And so I think it is hard. The main thing is accepting it, and that's not easy. It's never gonna be easy. I think that's when having the ability to control your emotions, though, and control your brain, I think that can help, because it can allow you to understand that there's nothing else you can do, and it's just the reality of it. And yeah, that's the sad truth. The sad truth is that everything isn't going to work out in your way. Everything's not going to go your way. There's going to be twists and turns. You're going to fall down. You're going to have to get back up. That's just the way things go. And it sucks, but it is the truth, and it is the reality of whatever situation you're in. If it's a hard situation you can't quite get rid of because it's still stuck in your brain, I get it, and it makes sense, because it's not meant to be easy. It's not meant to be easy to get over. But there is gonna come a time where you're gonna have to stop thinking about them more and more, and you're gonna have to forget about them. Otherwise you're just gonna live an absolutely miserable existence, and you can't really do that to yourself. It's stealing time away from you. It's taking your potential, especially if you're younger. When you're younger, you have all the potential in the world to do whatever you want. Those are the golden years, to build yourself up as big as you want to, with no limit, because there isn't a limit. When you're younger, you have every advantage, because people that are older, like, I'm sure older people, even rich people, billionaires that are older, the one thing, they might be rich and you might be poor, but you're young. You have that advantage. You have all the time in the world to do whatever you want. Those billionaires, they can't get that time back. The only thing money can't buy is time. And so when you're younger, you have that advantage. You can build whatever you want, and you need to take advantage of that. And so sitting around thinking about things that don't really matter anymore, it's just, you're stealing your own potential away from you, because you could be spending that time on building yourself as a person to whatever level you want to, because it's endless. And I think that's where people really should be putting their energy into. I think people really should be putting their energy into themselves, building whatever they want to, doing whatever they want to. I've been going to the gym lately, and it does help. I used to not like the gym because it was just difficult. I didn't like the repetition of it, but ever since I've been going, somewhat consistently lately, I actually enjoy lifting weights now, and it's just a normal thing. And you just get used to it, and it just becomes a part of the new normal for you. But I think I think that's just getting comfortable with it. And it's not for everyone. Like, not everyone's gonna adapt to the, gym lifestyle or getting in shape and all that. But it's about putting your time into things that are gonna grow you as a person. Because if it's not gonna, like, if you're wanting to start a relationship with someone, if it's not gonna grow the relationship, or it's not gonna grow you as a person or the other person as a person, because you're together and you're a couple, if that's not the situation, then there's no point in spending energy on the other person, because at that point they're not doing anything for you. You're just putting out energy that's not going anywhere. So I think it's important to put that energy into yourself, because at least there's going to be something to show for that. There's going to be proof of that energy going to something that's worth something, like getting in shape and getting healthier and eating better and building whatever you want to do with your life, and I think that's critical. I think people just, and I think social media is a problem with it as well. I don't think dating apps have helped at all. They can have, but I think people get caught up in things they don't need to, and even if it's just a fling situation, the important thing to do is to appreciate that it happened and learn from it, and then move on and remember what you perhaps did wrong or something, but again, use it, become informed about it from the experience, get more knowledgeable about it, and then put that energy towards better things. And then perhaps it gets to a point where you're so focused on building yourself that you stop thinking about that person anymore, and then your sole focus goes back to you all the time. And that's not a bad thing. I would say that's probably one of the best things you can do, especially for yourself. So yeah. Okay, so I've been going for a decent amount of time. I didn't know. But yeah, I'd just say, if you're having a hard time getting over someone, and in the back of your head you know it's over, or there's a weird thought in the back of your head telling you that it's over and you need to move on, listen to it. That's the truth. The truth sucks, but that's the reality. And you have to move on with your life. And that might suck now, but you never know, in a year or so you could be the most grateful that you moved on. But you never know unless you do. I hope you got something from this video. It just sparked up in my brain, so I just decided to come out here and film it because I thought it was important, and I thought a lot of people are probably going through something like this, especially nowadays. So I'm hoping it can help a few people, and so that's why I decided to do it. So if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe and turn on post notifications for every time I post. And yeah, have a good day. Bye.